Hey folks, this is Kelani. I hope you're all having a wonderful time progressing through the Battle for Azeroth leveling experience. My first toon is already up at max level, so I'm going to go through what you can do to gear up to around item level 340 as quickly as possible. You should be able to get a little higher if you get everything done, and we have 3 weeks to prepare for the first raid tier, Mythic Plus and Warfronts. Whether you're hoping to head into Uldir as soon as you can or tackle some awesomely high Mythic Plus keys, one thing you're going to need is more gear. Item level 340 is a great goal to aim for, which should give you some wiggle room in all types of content for a few weeks down the road. So let's get started. The first thing you're going to need to do is get to max level. You can't do any meaningful gearing while you're leveling, so knock out a few more quests and get to level 120 where you can start actively increasing your item level. I guess you'll probably be rocking 270 to 280 item level by the time you reach 120, so you've got a lot of ground to cover. One thing you should constantly be looking back on is your current reputation with all of the new factions. You have one for each leveling zone, one for the war campaign, as well as 2 neutral factions in the Tortollan Seekers and the Champions of Azeroth. You should hopefully already be friendly with most of them to unlock world quests at max level, but if you stayed in a certain area for a little bit longer, you might have managed to reach Honoured with one of your reputations, which means you can go pick up a piece of gear basically for free. Each reputation will reward you with higher and higher item level gear as you gain more reputation. At Honoured you can get a 320 cloak from any faction, at Revered you can get a variety of item level 335 pieces, so be sure to check which slots are available for your armor type, and then at Exalted you can get 350 item level pieces, which are again various slots. Just check back with your rep vendors every time you hit a new milestone. If you get revered with Talanja's Expedition, hop on over and see if they have an upgrade for you. Just hit Exalted with the Champions of Azeroth, better go see what gear you can nab. It's going to help you fill in your slots pretty fast compared to other sources of content, and if you're already getting the rep you need, you've already earned those pieces of gear. All that's left to do is go pick them up. But rep grinding is still going to be a long-term thing. What can we do right this second to get some better gear in our pockets? The first thing a lot of players will gravitate to is the gear world quests on your map. That's both a great idea and a terrible idea at the same time. World quest rewards scale with your item level, so the higher your item level when you complete a world quest, the better the reward is going to be. World quests scale up to 325 for the most part, with some quests going as high as 330. Mythic Dungeon world quests will reward some shiny 340 loot, so try to get those done whenever they pop up. I would recommend doing world quests that reward gear if they're going to expire before you next log on, that way you're not missing out. But I would try to wait as long as possible to get a few extra item levels for free. Try and make it the last thing you do before you log off, that way you're going to have the highest possible item level for that little chunk of playtime, thus getting the highest reward you can from those specific world quests. They're going to reset eventually anyway, giving you another round of world quests to complete for even more loot. The same goes for the emissary quest rewards, which you can find in the bottom left corner of your map. You can finish those emissaries whenever you feel like, and I would get the ones done which don't reward gear as quickly as possible to help out in other areas of your character progression, but the ones which reward Azerite gear specifically, try and wait as long as you can to turn those emissaries in. The rewards can scale all the way up to 340 item level. That's going to be huge, especially in your Azerite gear slots. Obviously, don't let them expire, make sure you hand them in before the day rolls over, but if you wait as long as possible, you'll get the best possible reward. The first port of call for myself and my Mythic Plus group is going to be normal dungeons. At max level, normal dungeon loot is 310 item level, a pretty big step up from your questing gear. Even getting a few pieces can really jumpstart your gearing up process. If you don't have an active group of friends or guildies who you can do harder content with, you're probably going to want to keep running normal dungeons until you have 305 item level. At that point you can hop into the random heroic queues and start gearing up from there. Getting to 305 shouldn't take too long with normal dungeon loot and world quest gear added on top of it. Heroic dungeons will drop 325 item level gear, and again as you gear up your world quests are going to be worth more and more. At this point you can probably just clear out the map of world quests and queue for random heroics whenever you have the time. Now if you do have a good group of players and you can actually walk into heroic dungeons way earlier than item level 305, we're probably going to get around 290 maybe, and then walk into each heroic dungeon, clear it out and hope for some decent drops. This is going to help you gear up way faster because not only do you completely avoid the queue times, but if you group up with players who overlap when it comes to armor types, so 2 leather wearers and 3 plate wearers or something similar, you can all pass around loot you don't need, helping everyone gear up way faster. By the time you clear out each heroic dungeon, you should be able to queue for the random ones pretty easily. When you're about 320 item level, maybe 325 if you want to play it safe, you can start looking at Mythic Dungeons. Mythic Dungeons will open up after the first reset of the week, so they won't be available right away, but you should only have a day or so to wait. Honestly, by the time most people get to max level, the Mythic Dungeon should already be open. They drop 340 item level loot, which is the highest you can get from a reliable drop before Raids and Mythic Plus open up in a few weeks. This is sort of the end game right now. It's the hardest content we have access to, and it drops the highest item level loot. The only stuff that's really higher that's accessible is the Exalted Reputation rewards, which are sitting at 350. So your gear progression is going to be very similar to past expansions, normal dungeons, heroic dungeons when you have enough gear, and then finish off with Mythic Dungeons. You can add in a bit of PvP to break things up if you really want to, but I don't think PvP gearing will be anywhere near as quick as just going through dungeons. Keep an eye on your world quests. Completing them all would be a fantastic idea, but if you don't have a lot of time and gearing up is your priority, get the gear quests done as well as the artifact power quests. If you have enough time to get all of your world quests done, you should get revered and exalted with each faction pretty easily, but there is something you can do to speed things up. There's an item called a contract available from Inscription. There's one for each faction. If you use one of these contracts, every world quest you complete will give you an additional 10 rep towards your chosen contracted faction. It might not sound like a lot, but the contracts are going to cut quite a lot of time off the grind to exalted, and in my opinion are totally worth it. I'm going to have a contract going before I even touch my first world quest. So that's more or less everything we have to work with when it comes to actual items, at least until Raids, Mythic Plus and Warfronts open up on September 4th. They're going to increase our potential item level by a crazy amount. Heroic Raids drop 370 gear, Mythic drops 385 when it finally opens up. You can get 380 or 385 loot from your weekly Mythic Plus cash, and 370 gear from higher Mythic Plus keys. Warfronts will also reward a 370 item for the weekly quest, as well as 340 gear from the Warfront itself. So we're going to have even more ways to gear up before too long. But there is one piece to this gearing up puzzle which might be a little confusing: the Heart of Azeroth. Our new amulet actually increases in item level every time you level it up. Right now you get 2 item level per level up, so the more Azerite you farm, the higher item level you'll end up with overall. This means artifact power is going to be even more important in BFA than it was in Legion. As you get a higher item level Azerite armor, you'll need to level up your amulet more to unlock the Azerite powers and traits, but you also gain that item level bump. Something worth noting is that every time you go up a reputation rank with the Champions of Azeroth, you get a quest to talk to Magni. Each quest increases the item level of your amulet by 15, so those Champion of Azeroth world quests should definitely be on your to-do list. Island expeditions can be a great source of artifact power to really pump up the level of your amulet. You get quite a good chunk of artifact power for completing each island, but there's also a weekly quest which rewards you with a huge amount, 2,500 artifact power just for running around on the islands and trying to collect as much Azerite as you can. You don't even have to be victorious on the island for your progress to count towards this weekly quest, which is really nice. When it comes to just raw gear drops, island expeditions aren't really that great. The only loot you can get from them, from what I know, is 325 weapons, so if you're really struggling to find those pesky weapon drops, you might end up being luckier with island expeditions as opposed to normal or heroic dungeons. Who knows, it might be a nice little break from all of the dungeon spamming we're all sure to get tired of. Professions can also provide you with some early gear, but it's not going to allow you to skip ahead too far. The highest crafted gear we're going to see for a while will be the item level 300 rares. They can warforge up to 310 epics, so if you get lucky with your crafts you can skip ahead to heroic dungeons, but crafted gear really isn't going to provide you with all that much this time around. There's no obliterum or upgrading, the higher level crafts require raid only materials and they're bind on pickup anyways. If you have the appropriate professions you can try and craft yourself some gear to skip part of the gearing up process, or if you have plenty of gold you can spend an outrageous amount on crafted gear in the first week, but honestly I don't think it's going to be a worthwhile investment. You'll replace your crafted gear pretty quickly from either world quests or heroic dungeons. There's 3 weeks until the harder content becomes available, which is going to need that 340 item level, so you can take your time, level a few characters and progress your way up to the Mythic Dungeons to get the best loot possible so you can be ready to raid or stomp some Mythic Plus dungeons. The world bosses should also be appearing around the same time as the raids and warfronts, so that's just another loot pinata for us to swing at to try and get some extra loot. What's your plan for gearing up at max level? How many characters are you going to work on before the raids open up? Leave all your thoughts in the comments section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you want to join these lovely guys and gals, you can find a link in the description below. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.